Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 8 of the Straight Outta Prison podcast. I am James K. Jones, and this is my story.
And I am Haley Jones, and this is his story that has now become a part of my story.
So, in the last episode, we talked about my first couple of weeks at B.C.I, Brevard Correctional Institution, the place with lots of red bricks.
If you didn't know, it almost sounds like a school name, like a engineering school or something.
Well, what was odd, the thing that I guess kind of stood out to me initially was it kind of looked like a college campus. It did not look like a prison, unless you looked at, the barbed wire and the double fences and the police riding around all the time with guns.
Minus that.
Yeah, but other than that, it was a little city almost inside of a fence, and I would be there for the next 3 years. So a lot of life happened there.
So last time we kind of talked about the first couple weeks in prison, and we said this week we're going to talk about you going into the D dorm. Is that right?
Yeah, my next step was I went into a drug program. It was actually ordered for me by the judge when I was sentenced. So when I went through classification, my classification officer, she said, well, you're going to have to complete the drug program. And I didn't want to do it. I thought it was stupid. But she said, you're ordered by the judge, so you're going in the drug program, and you need to figure out how to make that happen. So I didn't have a choice in that.
So tell us about the D dorm. That doesn't stand for drug. It's just coincidence because there was A, B, C, D, and so on. So tell us about the D dorm.
So there were like 12 dorms on the compound. D dorm and E dorm were the drug program dorms. But the difference was when you were in the drug program, I don't know how to say it, you were shielded a little bit more, and you didn't have to experience like the rough part of prison that other people had to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, remember I said when I first got arrested in Jefferson County, Florida, and Monticello, it seemed like they gave me a lot of favor. Well, my entrance into my first couple of years in prison, because I was in this drug program, in the same way I was kind of given a lot of favor because you were shielded from, I guess, everyday prison life. Because we had like counselors and a different like supervision. Everybody in Florida, you had to have a job. You had some kind of a work assignment. But if you're in the drug program, your work assignment was assigned within the drug program. Does that make sense?
So how long were you supposed to be in this drug program?
So the program it's a 9-month program, and you had to, complete it. It was time based. But you had to complete it without getting in trouble, and you had to. They gave me this booklet of all these benchmarks and all these things that you would need to complete and all this counseling that you would get and all these other things. So I was expecting, to go into something where I had to sit around and talk about drugs and, all that stuff. But what I found when I got there was something quite the opposite. It was actually the drug program. The drug program that I went through was a joke. It was.
Why was it a joke?
Because we never did anything. I mean, I had a counselor. His name was Mr. Worlds. And
Mr. Worlds?
Yeah, that was his name. I won't say his first name, so that way I know his name, but I won't say it. He was a character. He was about as corrupt as we were. But my drug program consisted of, we would wake up in the morning for work call. We would go to this classroom. Our classroom was in the middle of the compound, and it had glass windows on both sides, so we could see north, south, east, and west. We could see everything that was going on from our little classroom. So we would go in there, and he would ask us if we were good. Any problems? Nope, no problems. Okay, so then we would sit down, and whatever he watched on HBO the night before, he would set his VCR to record it, and that's what we watched. We watched movies and a lot of Def Comedy Jam, and that was our drug program.
So is that why you say he was corrupt?
Well, I mean, it was a game. See, we were criminals, so we were inmates. We didn't care about none of that stuff. And
none of what stuff?
counseling and drug this and all that stuff. So it was just kind of I don't even know if it was just told to me or this is just what we do here. So during our class time, which was about 6 hours a day,
Class time meaning that's when you were watching the HBO.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of Def Comedy.
Class time.
Lot of Def Comedy Jam. One of us would watch. We would sit in the window and watch to see if anybody was coming. And Mr. Quick was like the executive director of the drug program, and he would make his way around going into classes and stuff like that. And one of us would have to sit there and say, Mr. Quick's coming. So if Mr. Quick was coming, we'd have to flip our chairs around. Mr. Wells would turn the lights on, stand up in front of like the dry erase board, and then he would just start writing like random stuff and making it look like we've been doing classes. And then Mr. Quick would come in and Mr. Wells would like spout off some recovery nonsense and then say, well, inmate Jones, tell me about your childhood, stuff like that, like I guess to make him think we were like digging deep. And then Mr. Quick would always smile and say that Mr. Wells is amazing, turn around and walk out, and we go back to watching Def Comedy Jam. So that was pretty much my drug program for 9 months. That was what I did.
It's funny to me that if that's his real last name, Worlds, as he was, and then Mr. Quick, who was walking down, and y'all quickly moved.
That was
the
his
names
name.
Fit the.
That's funny. I never thought about that.
Fit the game.
But it was a game, and he, initially I liked him because he didn't bother me. He would, tell me to stay out of trouble. Anything you good. That was his thing. And I don't know what he did all day. Like he would be in the office, but he didn't really come out to us, if that makes any sense. And I do know that of the other two, they actually did stuff like the NAAA stuff. They would do like different kind of classes and stuff like that. But we did. That was where I saw my first reality show. Was in the drug program. It was
What year was that?
That would have been 1994.
And what show was it?
Gosh, I can't even remember. It was something about they were like all living together or something. I don't remember.
Oh, it's the one that's still going on now.
I don't think it was Big Brother. No, that was
okay.
after. No, this one was before that. It was like the one where they lived in one house for like a year together. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of it. But recently I watched Netflix came out with the 25-year reunion of Def Comedy Jam, and it was kind of weird. I was looking at that, and it was like, wow, this was my whole drug program that I went through. But anyways, there were some good parts of it. I mean, my job was I was the laundry man. That was my job assignment. I later on got to be a assistant to one of the other counselors, which was a disaster. But
might be why you're such a laundry Nazi now, still to this day.
Well, we didn't actually do the laundry. We just made sure it got in the cart, and we pushed it down to the laundry every morning. And then when it came back, I would have to sort it and give everybody their laundry. And it was actually, in prison, every job has like a benefit. So if you're the laundryman, the benefit was if you didn't like somebody, you could give them the bad sheets. Or if you did like somebody, you could give them the good sheets. And my sheets were always good and fresh. But there were other jobs, but that was my first job, was being a laundryman. I didn't really, I wouldn't say I excelled at it, but I mean, I'm good at, I made sure everybody got their laundry. I almost got in a fight a couple times with people that didn't like the sheets I gave them and stuff like that. It was different in that we were kind of like shielded from what we saw going on in other, because we were free when we weren't in class to like walk around and be on the compound and do all that stuff. D-dorm was the Cadillac of the dorms to live in.
So did you have a roommate?
I did. My first roommate, I can't remember his name. I remember his last name was Jones. We were both last name Jones, but I was white, he was black. So that was a little bit of a culture shock to me. I had, growing up, I had black friends at school and had never really saw though inside of like the black culture. So there was a little bit of a culture shock in that, like trying to navigate through that. I don't know how to say it. Florida was different because there were so many, I guess, cultures. There was the, white culture, which I guess I understood. Then there was the black culture. And then there was another one that I didn't see coming. I'm from Phoenix City, Alabama. If you say Hispanic, you just think Mexican. So I made the mistake of calling a Cuban guy Mexican when my first couple of months there, and they let me know the difference. So we had there was a few Mexicans. We had Cubans. They were their own little group. The Dominicans, they were their own little group. They're from Dominican Republic, if you didn't know.
I'm aware. Thank you.
And then there were Colombians, and then there were like the Central American, they all kind of hung out together. But it was fascinating, like, to navigate through learning different cultures and different, asking questions. And I probably liked the Cubans and the Dominicans like more than I did the white people.
Why?
They were very loyal. They were funny. They were so diverse. Like, there, you would see, when you think Cuban, you think of Ricky Ricardo and I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
And, dark hair, kind of like me, dark hair, dark skin. But
I don't. I think of my uncle and my cousin when I think Cuban.
Yeah, but they're dark.
I actually didn't know Ricky Ricardo was Cuban.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but there were blonde-headed, blue-eyed Cubans. There were black Cubans. I don't know. It was just, it was a definite, like, you ain't in Alabama anymore kind of experience. And I lost my redneck accent while I was there somehow, I guess. I mean, I know I still got it a little bit.
I was gonna say, I think you still have a little touch of that.
No, you should have heard me you should have heard me before I went. But it was definitely a like a cultural, like,
awakening.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it was good for me.
That's neat. Yeah, that you got to experience different types of people.
But you asked about my first roommate. He was black, and the biggest clash in prison was between, black and white people, kind of like in the world. But remember we talked about my first fight that I got in?
Yeah.
When I got to prison. Well, I had to get in another fight with my first, when I got to my first dorm.
With your roommate?
No, it actually wasn't with my roommate. It was with one of his friends. So these little rooms, they weren't very big, but there was a top bunk, a bottom bunk. You both had a locker. You both had a table that you could put your stuff on. So the weird thing about, like, whoever your roommate was, their friends were also going to be in your room. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So figuring out who your roommate was going to be was the biggest. Like, you would run game, move heaven and earth to try to get in the room with somebody you liked, somebody you got along with, somebody's friends that you could be compatible with. So my first roommate, that was not the case, because he was from Jacksonville, and he had these little homies.
Jacksonville, Florida, or Alabama?
Florida.
You're in Florida. Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you're from Alabama and in Florida prison, so.
I didn't even know there was a Jacksonville, Alabama. But anyways, he was from Jacksonville. There was a lot of people in prison from Jacksonville. Jacksonville, Miami, and Fort Lauderdale were probably made up like 60% of at least that camp that I was at, that prison population. I think it was the first week I was there. One of his homies came in. I was laying on my bunk or doing something, and this guy picked up my brush and started brushing his hair with it. And I was like, and you know how I am about stuff like that. Don't touch my, like, anything that touches my body. I don't need you to mess with that. So he picked up my brush and he started brushing his hair with it and was like, scrunch, crunch, crunch. And I was like, hey, what are you doing with my, what are you doing with my brush? And he was like, Cracker, shut up. I do what I want. And so I was like, who are you talking to? You better get out of my room. And then he was like, Cracker, this is my dog's room. I do what I want. And I just remembered my training from county jail. Like, okay, I got to do something with him. But I was also still, my shoulder was still hurting from getting, hit and knocked down and almost knocked out. I fell on my shoulder.
When you saw stars that time?
Yes, and that had only been like 3 weeks prior to that. So I was in a little bit of a, I had that shock. I wasn't going to stand up and fight somebody like we were going to stand up and box. We weren't going to do it. I wasn't going to do that again. So I just went out in the hall with him, and we got in a fight, but he kind of stood back like we were going to stand there and throw punches. So I just, reached down, grabbed his knees, and boomed him on his back, and we had a little fight, but he never hit me.
Did you go for the gold like that first time you were in a fight?
No, I didn't. I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm not a fighter, so I'm not.
I know, but I always think the fights are most interesting.
Well, it only lasted like 5 minutes.
5 minutes fighting is a long time.
Well, anyways, I grabbed his knees and threw him down, like pulled him out from under him. And this was he was about my height, but he was a lot heavier than me. Actually, his name was Big O.
Big O.
That got handled very rapidly. And then
who won?
Me. But then the whole dorm just like lit up. They were like, "Oh, you boomed, big boy. Look at you. You boomed him. And I was like, "What does that mean?" It's like, "You boomed him. You grabbed him and boomed him on his back." And I was like, I was just trying to get him not to mess with my stuff. But anyways, long story short, me and him ended up becoming best friends after that. Like, he had some kind of weird like respect for me after that because I stood up to him, and he wasn't used to that, especially from a white person. And his family, his community, everything about him was the black community. Everything about me was the white community. He learned about white people from me, and I learned about black people from him. And we actually ended up being roommates later on in the grad dorm. But I love him. We still connect. We're connected on Facebook now.
Really?
But he taught me that just because we're different, we come from different worlds, that we can be friends. And he actually cut my hair for the next 2 years because prison haircuts were awful. Like, you had to go to the barber, and the regulation haircut was just shave your head. And they wouldn't, like, there was no take a little off the sides and leave me some to brush on top. Like, they would just zip unless you paid them. And so you could pay them 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes and they'd give you a good haircut. But Big O learned how to cut hair before he came to prison, so he was like a barber was his trade. But he had this thing where he would take a prison razor and pop the razor out and put it inside of a comb. It's kind of weird. Like, I can't really explain it to you. I really don't even know how he did it, but he would pop the razor out of the razor that you shaved with, put it in a comb, and then he would cut my hair with it, and he gave me the best fades, like beautiful fades. And I don't know, I learned so much from him. I think he learned a lot from me, and it was a good thing.
Is he still in prison?
No, he got out, and he's doing good. I think I talked to him about 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. What's his name? His first name.
Are we supposed to say names?
Well, you haven't said his last name, so.
I did. I said his last name was Jones.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a different than your first. I thought your first roommate.
His last name was Jones, too.
Oh, they were both last name was Jones.
Just so you know, Jones is a very common name.
Thank you.
Especially in prison.
For schooling me on that.
Especially in prison. I don't think he would mind if I said his name. His name was Orion Jones, but we called him Big O.
Sounds like a football player's name.
He had came to prison on like a drug charge. Like, I wouldn't even say he was a criminal, but he was like a younger, like he had, I think he had like 6 of his cousins that were at B.C.I. with us, like everybody. And I used to have so much fun making fun of him, and he'd have so much fun making fun of me. When the first time he cut my hair, I said, "You have to be careful on the back of my head because I got a cow lick." he like died laughing. He was rolling on the floor, and I didn't know what he was laughing about. So I was like, "What is your problem?" And he was like, "Y'all, Jones said he had a cow lick, like a cow came and licked his head." And like he had never heard the term cow lick. And so after I laughed with him a little bit, I was like, "Well, now that was so funny, what would y'all call it? What do they call it in Jacksonville?" And he said, "That's called a swirl." So apparently you don't have cow licks in Florida, you have swirls. But then I would laugh at him over the way he would, like, the little like lingo that he would use. You know, he'd holler out to him, "Hey, Pooch, you got pies? Pooch, you got pies? Bring me some of that tang." Like, it was just always like, you know.
What does that even mean, what you just said?
Pooch, you got pies?
Yeah.
His cousin's name was Poochie.
Okay.
And so when they would, people would like pool their resources. So if you were hungry, you might have oatmeal pies, somebody else might have peanut butter, somebody else might have bread. So you put it all together and everybody gets a 3-way sandwich. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
So, Poochie got pies?
Poochie got pies. I don't know. I mean, it was a different lingo, and there was so much. The lingo in prison took me a minute to get used to, but it was like everything meant something. Mm-hmm. Like, we're going to take our pictures, we're going to post up. So posting up meant, like, you took pictures on the visiting yard, but you could also buy, like, I think it was like $4 you could pay when you went to the commissary, and they would take your picture out. You've seen some of them where I'm in front of, like, a palm tree, like out in the yard. They would take your pictures, but you had to learn your post up for your picture. So they would... posting up meant you would get certain angles where you could see your watch, where you could see your whatever you had, because
it's like the angles that I get to make me look the skinniest.
Yeah, you're posting up. You're posting up. And if you had gold teeth, then you would have to like do your teeth like this so you could see your teeth in your pictures.
Okay.
I didn't have gold teeth, so I didn't have to worry about that. But
so they wanted people to see the gold teeth.
Oh yeah, if you had gold teeth, you gotta show in your picture when you post up. So it's just posting up, and then the other one was that you had to have a unit. I remember they told me that because I seemed to my first couple months I was there, I seemed to attract predators, and at that camp, it was not like sexual predators. It was like people trying to get something from you.
And you attracted them?
I did, and I didn't know why. Like, why are they bothering me? Like, hey, you want to buy some bleach? You want to buy some wax for your flow? And I seemed to attract them, so some of my people in my dorm told me it's because you don't have a unit. So I was like, a what? And a unit. So I was like, they didn't tell me about the unit. They told me the other ones, but they didn't tell me about the unit.
There's so many things to know.
So the unit was when you were in your dorm, you didn't have to have a unit. But when you were walking on the compound, a unit was a certain facial expression you put on your face that was like, don't mess with me. And it was like you were trying to look hard.
So a unit is a facial expression.
Yeah, but you had to have a unit was, when you put your unit on, it was, you were trying to look hard. Your expression was, don't mess with me. I didn't like it. I used my unit. Once I started using my unit, I learned how.
I feel like you have a unit now. Like, several people of our friends, before they know you, say, like, he just looks mad. I mean, it's kind of scary.
Maybe I got it from there. I don't know. Well, sometimes, like, when we're somewhere, like, especially when we're at church and we're trying to leave and you stop and talk to everybody, Lord have mercy. Like I tell you, don't make eye contact. If you don't make eye contact, we can leave. If you make eye contact, we're going to have to stop and talk to everybody. Yeah. But a unit's kind of like that. But it's like you lift up the side of your lip and act like you're hard and you're not to be messed with, kind of.
That would be hard for me to do.
Yeah, I don't know that you would have
had a unit.
I don't know that you would have made it through that so easy.
Is there anything else, any other like lingo that sticks out to you?
There's so much. I mean, lamping. I remember that.
Oh, remind me. I feel like we have talked about
Big
this.
O taught me that when they were talking. He was like, "Yeah, we were just up in the cut. We were just lamping." And I was like, "What is lamping?" And he's like, you just relax, lay back, you're chilling, have a few drinks, just lamping. And I was like, what does that mean? And he said, it's where you just in a chill mode, where you just chill. You chill like a lamp. So I was like, Lord have mercy.
Do lamps chill?
I guess. No, I did say that. Like, how does the lamp chill? It just sits there. It just sits there and glows and puts off its glow. So we was lamping. Another one was the cut. Like, I learned the cut. That has something to do with like the projects, but there were cuts in prison, I guess we would probably call that an alley. Mm-hmm. That was where you did business, was in the cut where people couldn't see. The other thing that really stood out to me in prison was all the religions. There were so many. They were everywhere. Everybody had like some kind of religion, and for me, like, I would look at it because, I didn't believe in none of that stuff. But when I was getting processed, they said, what's your religion? I said, Baptist, because that's the only thing I knew to say. Yeah. I mean, that's how I grew up. Baptist. So I learned after I got there, if you were Catholic and you said you were Catholic, then you got rosary beads. And I don't think I ever knew like a practicing Catholic when I was in there, but they all had rosary beads and they would wear them. And so you got to understand, like, if everything's the same, everything's uniform, blue shirt, blue pants, you got to figure out a way to stand out, like with a watch or with a pair of shoes. But if you're Catholic, you could throw on your rosary beads and, you could be styling. If you're Jewish, you got a little hat that you could have.
Oh,
You could
yeah.
have your little hat. If you were, the best ones were the Muslims. Like, they had everything.
What did they get?
They got like these big hats that went like all the way over their head, but it could be like wide or different, I think you could only have one, but they got a hat. But the best part about what they got was the Muslims got like an Aladdin rug that they
Oh, yeah.
that they pray. It's like a prayer rug or something. I don't know, but I wanted a rug for my room.
Of course you did.
I could be Muslim. I know you have to like not eat like twice a year or something, that Ramadan stuff. But I didn't know many practicing Muslims either. But there was a lot of them that had rugs, and I was like, I wanted a rug. And that was a big thing in there, was like, time goes on and you're like living your life, and your space, your little room, like there's so many rules, like they didn't want you to have nothing. But we would come up with ways to make our space better. Well, not everybody, but I did. There were a few people that did. But like to wax your floors, like you'd have to like take some cigarettes or some coffee and buy it from somebody that siphoned it off, that was on the floor crew, and you could wax your floor. And then you learn how to wax it deeper. And then we had these metal tables that we would take magazines and cut out pictures. And you could dip pictures in the wax and then lay them out on the table and then put cups of wax on the table, so you'd have...
Like a decorated table.
Yeah. You weren't supposed to do all that. So you would do all that and get obsessed with it and get your room just like you want it. Then they'd come in there and take it all from you. So room searches were the worst. Like they would... it wasn't as bad in the drug dorm because the counselors did it and they didn't care. They let us do whatever we wanted to as long as we didn't bother them. But they would come in and just like tear everything up. And I always said, when I get out of prison, I'm going to be at home and worry that somebody's going to come in and tear up my stuff.
You are like that still, I think.
May be. I don't know. It was, that's hard. Like you have you have everything settled and everything where you know where it is and all your things, and then they come in and just tear it all to pieces.
I do think that sticks with you. So James and I, he was 40 when we got married. Or were you 41?
I was 40.
40. So imagine 40 years and then this prison experience, always being afraid someone's going to mess up your stuff, on top of being a man who has things like in order and doesn't want it to be disrupted. And if you know me at all...
Yeah, Haley's the opposite of
I am a natural disruptor of things.
Yeah, she doesn't need anything to be where it needs to be. It just needs to be somewhere, and she can find it.
But actually, this is giving me some insight into part of why that's such a strong...
I don't think I ever connected that. Now, I do connect like the like hygiene and, like toilet paper and all the like necessities. I did learn that in prison. Like, you had to make sure you had more than enough toilet paper, more than enough soap, more than enough everything, because it could just be gone, and you wouldn't have... I guess we know, like, through this pandemic, what it might feel like to not have toilet paper, but that was a real thing.
But when you're married to James K. Jones during a pandemic, you're going to have plenty of toilet paper and also paper towel rolls and bleach, wipes, etc.
Yeah, we didn't miss...
For the duration.
We didn't miss any of that. But I learned that in prison. It was how to be prepared and equipped. You got to have a backup of everything, because you never know. You just never know what's going to happen.
I have to say, just as a compliment to you, like you talking about learning how to make your space better when you're in prison and waxing the floors and doing the trades in order to do that and decorating the table. I guess that is in the fabric of who you are, which is something I really appreciate, because I do think that I've noticed being married to you and living in a house with you, that you definitely make things better when you get there. Like you make things... Oh, I'm getting emotional.
That's sweet.
No, but you do. Like, you just, whatever your space is. We lived in an 804 square foot house when we got married, and then with 3 kids after that, so it was very, very tight. But you still just made the most of it and wanted to redo our whole bathroom and shiplap it. And I was just like, why? When we're not even going to be here, Lord willing, much longer than this. But
because it was so ugly.
Yeah, but you wanted to make it better. I appreciate that. But it's funny to hear that you were even doing that in a prison cell, waxing your floors and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean
that was
not everyone's like that, and by not everyone, I mean I'm not like that all the time.
Well, no, but like our dorm that we had, you kind of become who you hang around. So if I did my floor, then the guy that lived in the cell next to me would be like, "Oh, I could do that and make my space better." So you kind of inspire others.
That's awesome. I don't know if that would work for me, but I'd be like, good for him.
But some of that stuff caused me a lot of trouble because they don't want you doing all that. Like, they want you to, like, go in there and suffer. Like, because, like, technically you're only allowed, like, 2 pairs of boxers, 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of clothes. But you learn how to navigate that, and then, everybody has a hustle. You figure out what your hustle is, and my hustle was never really to get, like, cigarettes and stuff like that because I had my family took care of me, but my hustle was to get stuff that otherwise wouldn't have got, like stuff you couldn't get, like floor wax or bleach to wash I despise, like they had these little mesh bags that you would put your underwear, socks, and t-shirts in, and they would send them to the laundry, and they had these huge, like, I can't even explain how big they are, but they would throw like the whole dorm's underwear in this machine and wash it and then dry it and you get it back. But it always grossed me out knowing that my underwear were mixed with 20 other men's underwear and liquid and then dried. But I did my own laundry. Like I did my own, not my outside clothes, but my socks, underwears, and t-shirts. Like, I washed them by hand in the sink with detergent and bleach. But you couldn't have bleach, so you had to find a way to get bleach. And then I would hang them out to dry. And that's how I did my laundry. And then...
It is crazy how I'm seeing similarities in how you were then and how you are now. How some things have not changed.
Well, laundry's a big deal, especially like when you had a visit because you want to look your best. Or when you take a picture. So we found a way to press our clothes. We would
by press you mean iron?
Yeah, but we didn't have an iron. So how we pressed our clothes was you put them in between 2 boxes and you put them under your mat where you slept under your bed. So your body weight, because you only had to visit like once a month. Mm-hmm. And actually Big O taught me how to fold down the back of my shirt where you could put like creases in your laundry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Very innovative.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in this dorm for 9 months, you said, or the drug program was 9 months?
It was 9 months.
So what happened at the end? Is there anything else? Any other interesting stories?
Well, like somewhere in the middle of that, my first couple months, my roommate got sent back to county for something, and I got another roommate. He was a guy, they were always saying his name, Valenza. People were like talking about him all the time, but he wasn't there. And then he had got out on some kind of control release and then violated it, so they were sending him back. And then I remember Mr. Wells telling me, Valenza's coming back, I'm putting him in your room. And just thinking, I've heard that name so many times, it's kind of weird. So this guy, honestly, at first I couldn't stand him. He was Italian, and he was like a loudmouth, like very boisterous, and just... He ended up becoming one of my best friends, even to this day. We've kind of lost touch now. He was my roommate for like maybe 2 months before one night we were going to sleep and talking. And I found out that he was a chef, and he found out that I was a chef. And like he jumped out of his bed and started like, "This is not a coincidence. This must be God." And so I was like, "But you don't believe in God. You believe in that Buddha stuff." So.
Oh, he had a rug. Did he have a rug?
No, Buddhists didn't have that.
Oh, they didn't have a rug. Okay.
They just had books. Oh, I forgot to tell you what I could get as my religion.
What?
A King James Bible. That was all I could have. That was my Baptist, and I was a registered Baptist because that was what I said when I came in. So the only thing I could have was a King James Bible, and I never really did understand those. But I did use the paper in the King James Bible, to roll up marijuana cigarettes.
So you found a good use
No,
for
but
your current situation.
no, but they would like if you I would just I remember one time vividly. I think it was Big O and a couple other people, and it was like, we can just use the paper out of the Bible, and they were like, no, you can't. And so I was like, yeah, it's like rolling papers. It's thin. Like, no, you don't understand. No, that's the Bible. You can't do that. And I was like, it's a book. It's some paper with some words on it. You can do that. But they thought I was crazy because, like, I would throw Bibles away or wouldn't. I would use. I mean, but
Or used them to roll up
yeah,
weed? Is that what that is?
yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyways, they thought that was a big deal. But then there was one time that I actually went to lockup during that season that I did try to read the Bible.
Why do you go to lockup?
There was a work call, like you had work call in the morning, everybody had to go to work, then unless you worked somewhere where you had a pass to stay in the dorm. And then I had been the laundryman, that was my job, but I was only the laundryman on the first part of work call, which was before lunch. So after lunch, work call, I had to go do something, the drug classes or something I was supposed to be doing. But we weren't really doing it anyways. And I remember I used to stay up late listening to music, and I'd be sleepy. So when they did work call, the second work call after lunch, like everybody had to leave. Because you had to come back and get counted, say your DC number, make sure everybody's where they need to be. I didn't want to leave the dorm. There was an older guy. He was like maybe in his 60s, and I knew, you would learn different officers, you would learn their routines. His routine was he would walk around one time after work call to make sure everybody was out, and then you wouldn't see him again till after dinner. So I had this thing where I would hide behind the door, and he would come through and look, and then as soon as I heard his footsteps going up the steps and the door snap, I would just go to sleep, take a nap. And so this day he saw me, and he was so angry.
So you were hiding so you didn't have to go to work?
Yeah, but we didn't have jobs. We went and sat and watched Def Comedy Jam.
Oh, okay.
So it was easy for me not to do it because, I mean, we weren't doing anything anyways. But I was sleepy and I wanted to take a nap, and I did that all the time. Like, I got away with that more than I ever got caught. But that one time I got caught, and then me and him had words, and he was like, "Why would you do this to me?" And I don't know what to tell you. So he called them. They came and questioned me, and then they said, "We're going to put you in lockup for a couple of days so you learn to respect our authority." Because I think I got smart with him or something. I can't remember.
Probably.
I mean, it was very stupid. It wasn't like I did anything like overt. It was just being stupid.
Yeah.
And that was awful. Like, they lock you in a cell. They keep it dark most of the day. It doesn't have any windows. It's like this, and you don't have anything. They don't let you. You have a blanket. I don't think you have a pillow. And the only thing you can read is the Bible. Like, they can't, there's no books, no. So I'm there with my King James Bible, and I open it up and I try to read it.
At least the pages that are left from rolling up from the weed, right?
Anyways, I tried to read it, and I couldn't read it. Like, I didn't understand it. It was Thedau, Thorist, Orostus, and all that stuff. But it reminded me of being in high school when they would, like, make us do Shakespeare. I could never understand Shakespeare. I don't understand that language. It's like trying to read French or Greek or something. But I did try. I even tried to pray when I was in lockup. But I was there for 3 days, and I was so happy to get out. And when I got out, whatever they told me to do, that's what I was going to do. So that little experience with lockup made me a very obedient inmate. I was good with that. But then from there, you do your 9 months, and then the thing that you want to do after that is graduate successfully so you can live in the grad dorm. So there were 20 spots on the other side of D dorm, Pod 1 and Pod 2, that were grad dorms. But you had to, like, fight for one of those spots. So I wanted to stay in the drug program because I didn't want to go to real prison. I know that sounds weird. I mean, you're in prison, but we called all the other dorms the Wild Wild West because there were things that went on there that didn't go on where we were.
Okay.
And they had like rats and roaches and all. It was just gross. It was nasty stuff that we didn't have. We didn't.
Right.
We were. It was clean and nice, and I mean, you say nice, you're still in prison, but it was compared to the others, it was nice. So I signed up to be one of the counselor's assistants, and they told me that if I would get my GED, they would approve that, and then I could just stay in the grad dorm. So I was going to the GED classes, and they were so stupid. They were like trying to teach you how to do fractions and spell. And so I, sat through a couple of those classes, and I was like, look, I quit school when I was in the 10th grade, but I'm pretty sure I could pass the test. Is there any way I could just take the test and be done with that? And for some reason, they said yes. They let me take the test, and I passed it, and I got my GED, and then they had like a graduation ceremony. And then, we talk about hustles. Another hustle people had there was like smart kids. They would take other people's GEDs for them. They got in a lot of trouble when they got caught doing that, though. They got in a lot of trouble. I never did that. I was like, I don't like tests anyways. I can take it one time and be done with it. But like somebody would pay somebody else to go take their prison ID and go up there and take their GED. So, I mean, I feel like that was a good, I don't want to say accomplishment, a GED, a prison GED, but, my mom was happy about that.
Really quick before we go on to the graduation and finish the GED talk, did we finish what happened with Velasquez or Vesquez? What was his name?
Valenza.
Oh,
well, we would sit around. He was a chef. His grandmother owned a catering company. He was from Miami. He actually grew up in Hialeah.
Okay.
His grandmother was a caterer, and, he worked in Italian restaurants. And we actually sat down and planned out our restaurant we were going to open when we got out.
Oh, wow.
It was going to be called the Pasta Chef. And we were going to have, because I learned how to make pasta when I was working with Patrick, and people used to stop and watch me make it, because he wouldn't. When I worked for Patrick, he would not let us. That was my last boss, probably the only real chef I've ever worked for. He wanted everything to be homemade, like made in his kitchen, and he taught me how to make pasta, and I was good at it. And so I was going to do the pasta, Valenza was going to do the pizza, and we were going to, get out and change the world.
So how did y'all lose touch? Did he move out, or?
He got out about 4 years before I did.
Got out of prison, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, he would write me letters, send me pictures, stuff like that. I remember when I first got out of prison, I think that was in remember the Elian Gonzalez thing?
Yes.
It was during that time, and I was on the phone with him, and he was on a cell phone, which I thought was weird. But I had just got out of prison, and they were like rioting out in his front yard for the Elian, Elian.
Wow.
And I was like, you're lying. And he's like, no, this isn't. But it was all on the news, and I was just like, wow.
So it was in his neighborhood?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Where they, the feds rushed in and took him out and sent him back to Cuba or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't Cuban. He was Italian, but they lived there.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, he was a good friend. He became...
Did he ever open a restaurant?
Not that I know of. I did.
Yeah, yeah, you did.
But we've lost touch. I haven't. It might be 10 years since I've talked to him. I don't know. I don't know where he is now.
I'll have to look him up.
No, I've tried. I can't find him on Facebook or any of that stuff. But
okay, so you got your GED.
Got my
GED. There was a graduation ceremony.
Yeah, and then, they put you in a cap and gown, and then they take your picture. And
in front of the palm tree, I'm sure.
Yes, you've seen the pictures up there.
Yeah,
they're my prison pictures. But my mom wanted these pictures taken, and she didn't want you to see my blue prison uniform. So I was like, Mom, what are you doing? And she, took my thing and folded it up in there.
Your collar?
Yeah, so she wanted a graduation picture she could give to her mom and to my meemaw, so she would be proud once and for all. So I remember that was a big deal for her, but I remember it was kind of stupid for me because it looked like I was naked under the You have to look at that. You have to look at it sometimes. But that was good. I mean, I felt like, okay, at least I'm doing something while I'm here instead of wasting my time and learning how to, be a criminal worse. But I digressed. I did not get better my first couple years. I I became more selfish. I became more, running game, just trying to get the things that I wanted. And at the end, when I became an assistant to one of the counselors, and then they let me move in the grad dorm, I didn't like my cell partner, and I wanted another cell partner. I wanted to be in the room with Big O, was what I wanted. And bed movements are a big power play in prison.
Bed movements, meaning switching roommates?
Yeah, where you live.
Okay.
So in the drug dorm, the counselors had all the power to get that done. So Mr. Worlds was at my GED graduation, and he saw my mom, and he liked her. And he came to me after that, and he asked me if my mom was married, and I said, no. And he said, if you'll hook me up with your mom, I'll give you anything you want. So I was like, what do you mean?
Was he married?
I think he was married. So I was like, what do you mean? He said, I can make life real easy for you here. So he wanted me to hook him up with my mom, basically. I mean, it was kind of weird, but at the same time, I was like, could this be a thing? And so I called my mom and was like, can you holler at him? Can you? And she was like, are you crazy? What are you talking about? And so I talked her into, because I told her, he'll do anything for me. And then I said, you don't have to see him or anything. You're 10 hours away. Just call him. So basically I was pimping out my mom, but not for real. I mean, that's awful now to think that I was that selfish, but I was. But she did. She called him one time and talked to him and acted like she was interested in him. And he came in the next day, and I got my bed movement and whatever else I wanted. And then
this is kind of the corruption you were talking about in the beginning.
Oh,
too.
yeah, he was very corrupt. But then towards the end there, me and him got into it about something, and he made me angry, and I went and told on him and proved it, and he got fired. And then one of my roommates, Lindsay, he was having sex with one of the counselors and got caught. And she was one of those professional women that looked like a doctor and spoke, was always. They were doing things. He was her assistant. They were doing things that got them in a little bit of trouble. So just seeing all that corruption, and then I ended up at the end of that, after Mr. Wells got fired, I was the next guy's assistant. And he had a book in his office that had holograms in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted that book to take the pictures out and put them on my table in my room.
You're decorating? Yeah.
So I stole the book from him, and then he asked where the book was, and I was like, I don't know. I wonder which one of these inmates took your book. This is awful. So he had another guy that was in my room after I redid my table. He recognized some of the pictures in it, and he went and told on me. And so I got kicked out. So
you got kicked out of what?
I got fired from my job, which I had a sweet job. I was an assistant to the counselor, Miss Carol, and she didn't make me do nothing. The only thing she wanted me to do is make sure that nobody bothered her, and so I would just be like her do boy. Or she would ask me to go get her lunch, from the staff canteen. But then, if I went and got her lunch, then she let me have some of her lunch. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it was all corrupt. That whole thing was corrupt.
But is this the grad dorm we're talking about?
Yeah, well, once you're in the grad dorm, you need to have a job.
Right.
So my job assignment was to be her assistant. Mm-hmm. And that only lasted maybe 2 or 3 months. Because I was...
Wait, was this before or after you got fired from the first assistant job?
No, this is the same assistant
job.
the
same one. Okay.
I only had one assistant job.
Okay.
They don't usually give you another shot at that if you mess it up.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting fired, and when you get fired, they kick you out of the dorm. So I was getting ready to go to real prison. So I guess that'll be our next episode.
That's
we'll talk
exciting.
about... I'm going to the Wild Wild West, and then they got with my classification officer and, figured out what was the best punishment for me. So the worst job that you could have at B.C.I. was working in the kitchen. So they put me in the kitchen to punish me. Interesting to see how that ends.
Okay, so you've had as far as prison life goes, a sweet prison life. in
It was pretty
the
cushy.
drug program and then the grad dorm. But now you're fired and you're moving to the Wild Wild West.
Yes, I'm going to a dorm.
Oof. Can't wait.
Interesting. Well, stay tuned.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison podcast. For more, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Look up Straight Outta Prison podcast.
Yes, we have pictures and people of things that we talk about during each episode. I have really loved being able to connect people and their faces and names and some other things that we've talked about on this platform. So, Straight Outta Prison podcast, Facebook and Instagram. And if you'd like to support our show, check out our website, teamjones.com/podcast. Thanks, guys.
See you soon. Say it's nacho cheese.
It's nacho cheese.
And if you're getting anything out of these videos, please hit the like button, the subscribe. If you never want to miss a recipe or anything I do, hit the little bell and you'll get notifications.
Probably the best thing I've had in a long time.
Really?
Yes.
And
It's very good.
I know you make cookie dough for a living, so
I do, but this is really good.
thank you.
I could do some cookie dough after, but this is good.
It's cheesy chicken rigatoni.
Oh my god,
So say what y'all think about it.
it's really good.
Okay.
It's so good. The flavor is really rich. I like it.
No pressure. More
If you don't like it, it's fine. I'll take it.
Are you gonna make this at home?
No, I'm gonna make you make it.